ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on today's panel discussion on AI's transformative impact on UAE's Eventscape. My name is Laura from VFairs, and today with me we have a panel again of esteemed experts in the field of event planning and artificial intelligence. Welcome back, gentlemen. It is good to see you again. Now, we know that UAE has always been at the forefront of embracing new technologies, artificial intelligence being one of them. How would you describe the AI-based concepts or solutions to someone who might be unfamiliar with them?
I think the whole concept of AI first boils down to people understanding the difference between automation and AI, right? Siri can run automations, and you know AI is a whole other game. So people keep terming AI as a very simplified approach towards embedding it into events, but it's not that. It's all about the integration which makes things basically accessible in terms of real life data. Right now, that's where we are when it comes to AI, and how the data is processed to give you an answer or a solution in a much quicker way through an event, right? So that's where it is right now. A lot of people term as a trigger point that animates something which is already a pre-fed information, as that's an AI activation. That's not an AI activation. That's just a logic that is triggering something to do something which is predefined. So never get fooled by those kind of solution providers that say, I've got AI integrated into my tech. So it's all about how much of data, how much of deep learning is brought into the experience, and how would that facilitate its utility at an event. Just by throwing in AI, which doesn't make sense to the logic or the data that's being picked up at the event, really doesn't make sense even deploying it, right? So there has to be a reason why. And if that question is answered, then it simplifies how and where you'd use it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, in layman's terms, I think for a system to be considered like as a real AI system, definitely one of the big ones, as Sujoy mentioned, is the ability to machine learn,
Yeah.
both supervised and unsupervised learning. And of course, the other big one is the ability to reason, rather than just every time running the same pre-programmed data. Based on every context, it can reason very similar to human intelligence. So I think if both those factors are present, it can be considered as a real AI system.
In agreement to that, I feel, you know, it's not going to be right to talk about if we are already there when it comes to artificial intelligence, but we are definitely on the right path. I mean, I was having this conversation earlier this day. See, it was the year 2010 when people started to talk about AI, actually, especially in this region. In 2015-16 was the time when applications started to come in. Right now, we have almost reached there, wherein there are generic standardized artificial intelligence implementations that are out there that people have started to leverage. There's still a long way to go in my understanding. And I feel now the next level with people talking about how localized large language models are going to be created, probably localized versions of, the easier term that people use is chat GPT, on how localized country-specific versions of artificial intelligence models are going to be coming in. I think the next big step in artificial intelligence, and I'm hopeful that Middle East is going to be the region where that's going to be happening, is sector-specific artificial intelligence large learning models to be coming in. And I mean, just to take an example, imagine an event industry specific large language model that can take care of 80% of the basic tasks that you're doing. And there's work that's already happening in that domain. I'll give this over to you. I'm sure you're going to be talking more about this. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, uh, to set some base over here, right, I'd like to explain what AI is in layman terms, if I were to say explain it to my mother or grandmother, right? So, uh, like the panelists said, uh, you have a lot of software, and as event planners, you should be able to distinguish between AI software and non-AI software, and it's not very obvious, right? One of those telltale signs is the amount of data that is analyzed, and the output is generally probabilistic in nature, right? So to take an example, suppose you have a cake maker with you, right? And that cake maker takes ingredients, right? Like say milk, sugar, A, B, C, D, E, and gives out a cake. This is a formula-based system, right? This is not AI, okay? Now suppose you have another cake maker that creates the perfect strawberry cheesecake for your 50-year-old boss who grew up in the Black Forest region, and it does this through analyzing, say, millions of data points online, like the best recipes, reviews, maybe his Tabalat reviews, maybe even his date of birth, right? Say he's a Taurian like me, and Taurians maybe have certain preferences. You don't know, right? So there are millions of these data points that he can work on and then output the perfect cake for him that is probably closer to what an AI system is, right? And to simplify a few terms, right, you will hear stuff like model, right? What does a model mean? A model in AI is basically an application that gives you an output you want. In our case, it's the cake maker, right? People will talk about parameters, right? Parameters is basically all the ingredients that we spoke about right now, right? In the second case, it could be his date of birth as well, right? To put this in context, ChatGPT, the original version used about 100 billion parameters, right?
Yeah, more
And
probably.
GPT 4.0 uses about 750, right? Um, and more is not always better, but these are certain things that you need to be aware of. And the final thing is you need to know what model is being used, right? So when you're selecting a piece of AI software, right? When my team brings AI software to me and says, hey, we should use this for work, I ask them, what's the model behind it, right? So if it uses, say, GPT 3.5 or 4, I'm like, okay, it's good, because not all AI is good. Even if it's AI has been there for 10 years, so not all AI is good. So yeah, thank you.
And what would you say would be some of the successful implementations of artificial intelligence technology in the event space, if you had any examples?
I think right now the ones that are really being picked up very quickly are those that are easy to deploy, right? Because we need to also understand that there has to be an adoption rate for the B2B, right? Because you're delivering a technology that's not been done before. So if the solution is too complex and there are data points which are far too complicated for the user to input, to give the end user an experience, right? It would not be delivered to that level of expectation. So the ones that are there right now are more like chatbots, which are now being linked to, say, digital avatars, or let's say digital twins. So then there were obviously the chatbots designing skins or faces which are mapped to data about the particular topic, and live data, let's say, for example, at any given time, picking up information on the current status of how many people on Earth are infected with diabetes, and what are the percentages between the age groups, right? This is all data points that can be picked up and then link that to a healthcare initiative, which is communicating simplified logic and numbers to the end user, right?
Yep.
So yeah, to sum it up, I think right now the easy ones out there are, chatbots, which could have certain level of filters added into the NLPs, NLP meaning the natural language processing.
Yeah, I think chatbots is a big one. Derived from industries, and uh, every single department in an event company leveraging these large language models, whether deriving them into chatbots or whether actually using them every day for idea generation or creating like skeletons of proposals. Some people are using them to create risk assessments, and it's saving significant amounts of time. What would take people are generally able to do 3 days work in a day. So
Yeah.
it's like 2x 3x jump.
Definitely. And would you say that there are any ethical considerations that we should be aware of when using AI technology?
So, see, when it comes to ethical concerns related to technology, the major concern that comes in first that everyone has been talking about is data.
Data,
How is it
data
going to
privacy,
be?
yeah.
Yeah,
Is the
how is
thing.
it going to be ensured that my data privacy is completely there? And see, incidentally, currently the government regulations as well that are out there globally, be it the DPDP in India or the GDPR that has been in the UK or so on, these regulations largely talk about what is it that's needed in terms of data privacy. They don't specifically talk about how organizations are going to be maintaining that data and how that compliance is going to be met. So, I mean, I won't say this is gray, but of course, there are various permutations and combinations that come around it. That's one. Secondly, when it comes to ethical usage of data, I think it's really important for organizations, especially event entities like ours, to know how to classify between personally identifiable information and regular information that's related to any event or any individual. And more often than not, we talk about data privacy, we talk about ethical concerns on data, but what we don't talk about is what is the data around which we are talking about. So if in case there are 100 data points that are related to an individual, more often than not, there are 5 data points that are super critical that are supposed to be private in nature, and that's where data classification comes in. There are protocols, there are models, and I don't want to get very technological here, but there are enough models that are out there that organizations should be leveraging to know how to classify, how to have a data classification model when you're conceptualizing an event for a customer, especially if in case it's a government entity. How do we ensure that personally identifiable information of people is going to be completely protected, and how the remaining data in its abstract form coming to the topic of this event is going to be utilized for machine learning models? Because every data that's coming in is a data point for the engines to be
So
learning.
that's a catch-22.
Yep.
Right? So in the end, machine learning is all about more the data, the better the output. So AI is not going to just generate outputs without input. And that's something that you sign off on giving out your data when you're using AI, because that's what ChatGPT is all about, right? It's just getting smarter by the inputs that are coming in. So that's something we need to live with, because that's a situation which you can't avoid, because the AI is not going to get smarter by itself. It does require human input. And the second other thing is Web3 is still at its infancy. The integration of blockchain and all other, let's say, the industrial revolution in that space, the Web3 will add a lot of security possibilities in terms of the game changer in IP and trademarking concepts in the digital world will change when Web3 establishes a position. Maybe it may take 5 years, 10 years. I don't know how rapidly that would happen.
Or less,
right?
maybe.
Yeah, you never know, right? It depends on our input.
Yeah, no, but
But
actually,
that's a matter of time.
since you're talking of ChatGPT, there's an important use case that I can talk to all of you about, which is something that's really happening right now. And incidentally, I'm very happy to share this because this has happened in Middle East first across the entire globe. So I'm sure everyone has heard about ChatGPT being blocked in Italy. So Italy as a country does not run ChatGPT. Italy as a country has blocked it because of the concern that they weren't really sure that if in case their private and confidential data is going to be put across on ChatGPT. Now, but you know, we all being technologists, we would realize that blocking something on IP addresses is not really the way to go.
Yeah.
You're going to be very happy to go to a VPN and still access the
Yeah.
same thing. Now, there are platforms, and one of the first platforms with around 16 patents in nature has been built by an organization in UAE itself, which is called Private GPT. Now, what that platform does, it's very interesting. Whenever you are putting any of the data out there on ChatGPT, the proxy layer that runs on top of it tells the person that the data that you're entering on ChatGPT is, let's say, private, is financial, is healthcare, is supposed to be, data that you're not supposed to be putting on ChatGPT. Do you still want to go about it? And the organizations who are running this platform have the capability today that they can either block it completely, or they can have an entire log so that if I have put any confidential data related to my organization or related to an event on ChatGPT, the organizers or the people who are controlling the data can always know that it was me on an X specific system, on a Y specific time, and a Z specific data that I put out there. So I think such revolutionary models are what's really needed to get AI to its transformative impact that we are talking of.
I agree with what you're saying, right? So we did a poll yesterday, during the AI workshop that we conducted, right? And I think AI adoption is something at maybe 5% or something in the market right now, right? And in that, probably 99% of them are just using the public chat GPT that is there,
Yeah.
right? So what is actually required is, like you said, right? You require these industry-specific AI systems that respect your privacy, and they build on whatever OpenAI has already done, right? But the second thing to also note is AI lets you do a lot of subpar work very easily, right? So for instance, if I go online and I say, hey, create an agenda for a blockchain summit that I'm conducting, right? It's very easy. You will get an output, okay? But at some level, I think it's ethically wrong to just keep your level of work at that, because if you have an AI system with you, you should be able to add your industry-specific knowledge when you are using this system, right? You need to actually tell it, hey, I want you to research what are the latest trending topics right now, right? I want a few sessions that are maybe contrarian in nature, right? And if you see some of the best prompts that are there, right, even for image generation, they are extremely complex in nature, right? So if you're running a company, right, you kind of need to put some of those guardrails that, hey, if my people are using AI, AI make sure that they are well trained and they're like really smart people, right? Because what AI does as of today is it kind of replaces what is done by junior and maybe mid-level people, right? So you need smarter people to handle that AI.
So please give us a round of applause for our panelists,
Right.
and we can take this off stage.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for joining us.
Thank you,
very
Laura.
much.
Thank you, everyone.